Hello everyone, my name is Haley Hobson and today my presentation describes the American landmark case of Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District of 1969. The following slides present the summary of this U.S. Supreme Court case, the educational effects, as well as the impact on cultural diversity in contemporary classrooms in 2016. Every state constitution includes a provision for education, and the wording of the provision has proved important in determining the obligation of the state in providing for education and the constitutionality of legislative action. Sometimes these particular provisions must either be challenged or further supported by the Supreme Court system. In this case, a challenge was definitely met. Although the federal Constitution does not mention education explicitly, a number of its rights and freedoms affect education directly. Freedom of speech is definitely considered one of the most highly treasured and protected constitutional provisions. Regarding the constitutional freedom of teachers and students, America historically considers certain rights and responsibilities regarding conduct, speech, religion, and association from school personnel. Analyzing the featured landmark case of Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District of 1969, freedom of expression remained the key focus and challenge in the current era. The court case itself was positioned in a very interesting time in American history. Civil rights continually propagated policy, but not as much as the new concern of the military's involvement in the developing war of Vietnam. The culture shift placed the courts in defense to suppress outrage and violence. This shift in orientation occurred for diverse reasons, including growing concern about the level of violence and disorder in public schools and challenged political climate following the end of the Vietnam era. So what happened in this historical landmark court case? In 1965, several students in Des Moines, Iowa were suspended for wearing armbands during school hours as a protest against the Vietnam War. Wearing the black armbands was prohibited by the district policy, which intended to prevent possible disturbances after the faculty had learned that the students had planned on wearing the protested armbands in advance. Therefore, the suspended students filed suit, and the decision by the Supreme Court became a landmark decision in perpetuating the rights of students as well as teachers. In summary, the court ruled that students and teachers do not relinquish their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression when they enter the school environment. Here are a few famous pictures regarding the Tinker case. Two of the students on the left-hand side are brother and sister, Mary Beth and John Tinker. Along with other classmates, these siblings led the armband protest. Now to describe the final decision of the landmark court case. The main point is as follows. Although students and teachers do not relinquish their constitutional rights within the educational environment, the school officials can only limit students' rights to free expression if there is evidence of material disruption and substantial order. The Supreme Court case is quoted in the following slide. Quote, in order for the state in the person of school officials to justify prohibition of particular expression of opinion, it must be able to show that its action was caused by something more than a mere desire to avoid the discomfort and the unpleasantness that always accompany an unpopular viewpoint. Undifferentiated fear or apprehension of disturbance is not enough to overcome the right to freedom of expression. Unquote. The following slide demonstrates key vocabulary within the final decision of Tinker versus Des Moines. First, material disruptions. Basically, physical destruction of classroom materials and school property within the school environment. And substantial order. Basically, physical display of chaos or disruption amongst the peoples residing within the school environment. So here we have a dichotomy between the property and the physical architecture of the school environment, and then the relationship within the people within the school environment. Now regarding the future court cases which have been impacted by the Tinker versus Des Moines decision, presents a certain condition that teachers and students are not free to express themselves in any way or in anything that they desire. An important boundary for sure in dealing with the integrity of the educational mission of the school, as well as any offensive speech or conduct. The courts encourage teachers as well as students to freely express themselves outside the boundaries of the school environment and association, so as to not promote any confusion between the two matters. Teachers and students' freedom of speech remain protected as they demonstrate concerns as American citizens on a matter of public concern. Within the textbook Foundations of American Education by L. Dean Webb is quoted, "It's imperative that teachers not only be knowledgeable about these principles, but that they also become familiar with the applicable laws and school board policy in their own state and districts." Unquote. In dealing with the future interactions within the educational field, the Supreme Court further promoted that public expression should never undermine the effectiveness of working relationships, abilities to person assigned duties, and orderly school operations. If any of these elements are misconstrued or questioned, then such expression may be furnished ground for reprisal or for extermination. This goes on to affecting educators, parents, as well as students directly, that their speech and conduct must be upheld in a proper manner as to not undermine the effectiveness of the school and the relationships that reside within it. Right now, America is witnessing great disruption within the school districts regarding the recent political outcomes of determining Donald J. Trump as the future president of the United States. Universities as well as high schools throughout the nation have walked out of classrooms as well as expressed harsh and defying statements regarding their dissatisfaction and fear of the future leadership and policies of President Trump, especially regarding the extensive immigration laws. Personally, I believe that the effect of diverse cultures has never been so significantly as well as overlooked. Regarding the application of Tinker versus Des Moines, the question of diversity should never really be a main focus if every American's expression is valued as equal. Yet, diversity within the course cases, unless regarding racism, should remain minimal as an influencing factor. As long as students uphold freedom of speech as American citizens, then different cultural backgrounds should be honored as a beautiful element of diverse American citizens actively engaging in the rights upheld in the Constitution, like freedom of speech. The confusion that arises is when focus is not regarding the American citizens with American issues, but non-Americans promoting ideals while ignoring the constitutional order within America. In the end, I desire to conclude with a quote from Justice Forta's speech in speaking on behalf of the majority decision. Quote, "In absence of a specific showing of constitutionality valid reasons to regulate their speech, students are entitled to freedom of expression of their views." Unquote. The following resources helped construct the featured presentation as well as further aid in understanding the historical landmark cases and the current issues of our day. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for viewing.